Okay, so today we are going to look at the Star Wars poster. And I said in my last video that I wanted to kind of take a closer look at this. So here we are. And as you can see, so the movie was called Star Wars when it first came out. And then, as some people have mentioned, that it became episode 4, as some of you may know, it became episode 4, A New Hope. So I guess when George Lucas realized that he was gonna make like more than 3 episodes or whatever, when he made the prequels, I think that's when they started with the episodes. But anyway, there's George Lucas, the director, and we have Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher. Now, let's look at. Now, what I think is interesting about this poster is, first off, it looks great, right? Like, I love how posters, they show things, but like it's kind of realistic. But like, look at this formation, right? Like, we don't really see this in a movie, right? So I just think it's interesting how the poster kind of looks better than the movie, but I don't know. And of course, you have Darth Vader, which looks very ominous. Like, I'm sure if you saw this for the first time, you wouldn't even be able to tell what it is. I mean, it looks almost it's hard to tell what it even is. And then the sky backdrop is pretty cool. Now, I will say the the lightsaber, right? It doesn't really look like a lightsaber, so I'm not sure. Perhaps I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anybody knows the history of this, but perhaps when this poster was made, maybe the artist, or maybe they made this poster and the artist didn't quite understand how lightsabers worked, or I'm not sure. But I mean, obviously, it looks different than you would ever see a lightsaber behave. And lightsabers, they don't really have kind of these radiating sort of these wisps of energy beams or whatever they are. So I will say, now one thing that's interesting to me is how different Mark Hamill and Princess Leia look. Right, like Mark Hamill, he does look idealized, and you can tell. But I mean, I don't remember Mark Hamill having like these abs, or But I mean, it's kind of like a superhero version, or maybe, and his and then of course, like Princess Leia. I'm curious. Once again, I love the artistic impression of because I'm pretty sure like Princess Leia, she's not. I don't know. Like, this isn't exactly the mood that Princess Leia gives, right? Like, so, but yeah, I mean, I feel like, I don't think she makes this exact expression, or she's quite as, sort of, with her movement, right, is not quite, it's almost like she's posing, like she's making a dance move or something. Like, I'm not sure that Princess Leia is portrayed that way, right? Like, she's pretty calm and reserved, whereas this girl seems seems a little more active, a little more sort of a different energy about her. I wanted to let's talk about Mark Hamill, or Luke Skywalker. And with Luke Skywalker, again, the muscly, like, he's not quite this muscly, but I guess the artist kind of wanted to have a little bit of freedom in how the artist wanted Luke Skywalker to be portrayed. And in this video, or in this picture, it does show. I feel like you can see kind of sort of the fantasy, and a look of being well, I don't want to say hope, but more like a look of inspiration, like almost as if Luke Skywalker is is finding something beautiful, right? Like, I mean, he's kind of looking at the lightsaber, right? Kind of, yeah. So it's like he's wielding something very powerful, and so we can, it kind of, when you look at this picture, you're seeing that it's something greater than himself, and in this case, I think the lightsaber really represents the Force, right? The Force is what Luke Skywalker um, is learning how to wield and how to use. So I do like that. I'm not I like that, and I also like that. Now the thing is, he seems a little confident. They both seem very confident in this artistic rendition, and I will overall, like, I think it represents kind of an idealized version of these two, almost as if um, I don't know if this artist had seen the movie when it came. So maybe, that might explain how, because really Luke Skywalker in this film, he's very young, he's naive. So I'm not sure that he would have necessarily the confidence, but at the same time, he wants to become sort of this the person that he is meant to become. Um, as far as So let's look at Princess Leia. Now, I don't think Princess Leia wears an outfit quite like this, right? So, and she doesn't really use sort of a weapon, right? Like in this case. So it's, so perhaps the film kind of makes it seem like, but of course we do see Princess Leia she does use a weapon in the movie. But not, in this movie, it kind of, or this poster kind of makes it seem like she might be, she might be more action, that she's more of an action based person, but really she's more of a diplomatic, right? She plays a more diplomatic role. And Princess Leia, I think her personality, it doesn't quite match, which is why I think this is such an interesting thing, because, she's not quite this, she doesn't move this way, I don't think. And she doesn't have, she has a more reserved, even though this is also a reserved. I mean, women can have all kinds of women wear different hats, right? We all wear different hats, actually, men and women, and everyone kind of has a different way of being. So, it would have been nice if Carrie Fisher had been a little more like this, but really, it doesn't matter. I think the strength of Princess Leia is how I really like how it's really, she's a very cerebral person. Okay, she uses her mind, and that is perhaps the most powerful aspect of Princess Leia, right? In the film, we see this. She looks very plain, actually. She looks almost stone-faced, and not stone-faced, but kind of, she doesn't move that much, actually, in the movie. And she's always wearing this kind of white robe that's just very plain. And in that sense, she doesn't really jump around or do anything like that. So it's really all in the mind. And it shows you, it's just how, I guess, the character was meant to be portrayed, and also a reflection of of Carrie Fisher herself, right? Now, of course, Carrie has a great, Princess Leia in the film, she has a great way of expressing, or a good sense of a command, right? A sense of authority, but also just a great speaker, and not afraid to speak her mind. And that's something that just comes, I think, with experience, which is something that I think George Lucas was looking for when he casted Carrie Fisher in the role, because the character of Princess Leia is, in fact, an experienced diplomat. And so she has to have that gravitas and also that sense of wisdom. So, but what's interesting is that just women in general tend to be, they grow up a little quicker than boys anyway, and so but this is even doubly so. And so I think it's interesting how in the film we actually see how confident, or not even confident, just how wise Princess Leia is, and how much Luke Skywalker has to learn. Um, so, and I do like the robe. I mean, I wish she wore a robe like that, right? Does her robe go like that? That would have been interesting, huh? But I don't know actually. Does anybody know? Like, is Princess Leia, like, is her robe that she wears, does it come off like that as a cape? I'm pretty sure we don't see that, but I don't know. Like, see, now this is making me think maybe that is a feature, but um really. And then of course this, I see this kind of a belt or something, a belt of some kind. I'm not sure. Like, no, maybe that was, is that in the movie? Maybe that was an idea. See, it's hard to tell. And then he's also wearing a belt too. I'm not sure what, maybe they played a role. Maybe George Lucas had a different um set of powers for, maybe that was a part of it originally. I don't know. Does anybody know the history of this? So I'm kind of, yeah, maybe I could, maybe some of you could answer these questions. And then here, I don't know what is this to the left. I'm trying to figure that out. Oh, that's okay. So this is the silhouette of Darth Vader. I was looking at this pointy thing. I'm like, what is this pointy thing? Yeah, it's Darth Vader. It's very cool that this looks like a wisp. It looks like they're standing on a rock, but it also looks like they're standing on like a galaxy. You know how they put like clouds on the galaxy. It's a really cool. This is quite a cool. It looks like there's a galactic sort of these color swirls, and these colorations are the kinds of colors, and that astronomers foot the, what is it called, the photography, astronomical photography. Is that what it's called? Whatever. Astronomy photography. And they like to, put these colors, like, these, to fill in the different aspects of the galaxy. So interesting to see it shaped this way, or as a backdrop for these characters. And it also looks like a rock, like I said. And there is Darth Vader. I don't know. This looks kind of like a mistake, or I don't know, or maybe I'm not sure. Okay, maybe this is a different version. It looks like he has two eyes or something. But anyway, I do like that it is that we see kind of the stars in the background. And of course, it says a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It sets the mood. It's something that we all are familiar with today. But imagine reading this for the first time. And really, this doesn't look that much different from, say, the sci-fi films of the 1950s. You can definitely see, I know George Lucas himself has said that that his inspirations were some of these, the serials, the space themed, there were a lot of space themed films and magazines, and like, people were very excited about space, especially during the 1950s. Now, this film was made during the 1970s, but during the 1950s, it was an exciting time because the world was, the world was kind of exploring the solar system, and we see, and so, in America, right, the United States of America, right, America was going to, to space, was launching rockets, and that was something that was exciting at the time. And so this, a lot, people were making they were thinking about this during the 1950s. And so when George Lucas was growing up, he would have seen these things. And this is where, this film is something that kind of celebrates that. Now, what I do think is interesting is, I don't know quite how much George Lucas himself likes the sci-fi genre, because he's always said that he really was more about the storytelling and was more about kind of the opera, kind of the soap opera aspect of it, the families that it's, and so it's interesting that George Lucas chose to do that. So but still, at the time, the special effects, which, when you look at it today, they do everything in computers, but back then they really did everything with special effects, and they didn't have that much money back then. So, a lot of the original special effects, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong here, but like, the planes were just like hanging on strings. And so that's why when you look at this, I'm pretty sure we don't see this many planes, or this exact sort of, we don't see this exact configuration, or in the movie, right? Like, it would be cool to see this, but we don't see it happen quite like this. But still, like, we do see something similar to this, so it gets you excited. And I guess it's not meant to be completely realistic. And now let's look at C-3PO. So C-3PO kind of looks different here. Like, his face looks like a human face instead of the regular robot face. So kind of looks like the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. But yeah, so okay, so this is kind of a different, it's not exactly the same. His face looks more like a face, right? It looks like a human face. And I'm glad actually that they made it different. They made it more like a robot. So I do like that. That's a good change in my view. And then here we have R2, ARTOO, R2. That's what they call them, R2, and then D2. How do you spell D2? Is it DEETOO? I don't know. So R2D2, or just the letter R and then the number 2 and the letter D and the number 2. So yeah, we have the two, and if you haven't seen this movie, like, these are kind of two secondary characters. They are kind of the sidekicks, but really they are in the films, and they're kind of comedic, the kind of the funny people, right? And they comic relief, but also they help move the story along, and they also go on their own little adventures, which makes the film more exciting, to see different, because you see these, this is the hero, this is also another hero, right? The male hero, the female hero. We see them going on big adventures, but, not everyone has to be like the hero, right? I mean, in many ways, everyone is a hero, right? But the point is, you don't have to be kind of this big, you don't necessarily have to always be, you could be kind of a sidekick and still succeed and be able to contribute in your own way, because isn't that how life is? We can't all just be the leader at the same time. So really, it really does boil down to, people are going to be sidekicks, and you might do that for the rest of your life, or you might, maybe someday the sidekick can become sort of a protagonist or a leader. So that's really what this is about. It's about Luke Skywalker becoming a leader. And Princess Leia is already a leader, but really the movie is not really about her. It's about Luke Skywalker. So, but it's already interesting that, it'd be interesting if Princess Leia had her own movie, right? If she had her own movie, right, then she would have been the main character. But this story happens to be about his story, and it's a story full of adventure. And so a lot of, when you think about it, all of these characters, you might think, well, why are they secondary characters, right? Like, what is the difference between a protagonist, kind of a main character, and then, people who are secondary? And really the secondary people, you might say, oh, well, that means that in life they're not protagonists, right? Like Princess Leia, she's a sidekick. Or C-3PO is a sidekick. But is that true? I would say no, because you know what? We are all protagonists. We are all main characters of the story of our lives. Okay, and I want you to kind of let that seep in and let yourself be inspired by that, because look, Princess Leia, we could have made a movie just about her, right? And yeah, maybe they should do more movies like that. Like, imagine we could have made it from C-3PO's perspective. And I know, typically I guess we want to kind of associate, and we see ourselves in another human, so that perhaps gives Luke Skywalker the edge. But really, like, imagine if we had done it from a robot's perspective. I don't see why it shouldn't be as inspirational. And so now here we have the Death Star. Is that what it's? Yeah, it's the Death Star, and it's from the first movie. And if you haven't seen the Star Wars movies, it does play a big role in the film, and it is right. It looks good or ominous, but yes, it has kind of that ominous look to it, right? It looks kind of like an eye, and so it's good to see that they got that right. Like the artist kind of seems to have understood what it is, and the idea of the Death Star, of the Death Star being a satellite-like object had already been conceptualized by the time that this poster had been created. And like I said, look, it's very interesting how the bottom part, right? Like we talked about how these look like rocks, right? I love how the colorations at the bottom is kind of a reddish, right? Like the sands of Tatooine. So I love kind of this, and then the cool blue that looks like wisps of clouds that also surrounds, it looks blue, kind of like the sky, right? Or a night sky, perhaps. It looks kind of like a day sky, actually, when you think about it. But then it also looks like Darth Vader, and it looks like a smoke kind of behind Darth Vader, doesn't it? So it looks like a day for this Tatooine-like sand, but then it also looks like a wispy cloud that surrounds, right? Like, when he goes into a chamber or whatever, and Darth Vader is kind of, he's got this cloud that kind of follows him. So really, maybe this can also be interpreted as the cloud of Darth Vader, right? And then, and then we see kind of the sun, the light shining, or it looks like a light shining from the helmet of Darth Vader. It was kind of a reflection of a light. So I think this is interesting. Look at those shoes. I'm pretty sure. I don't think Mark Hamill, that Luke Skywalker walks around with these shoes like this. I can't remember what shoes they wore. And I don't think we see Princess Leia barefoot either. Okay, so here is Star Wars. There is the logo that we are familiar with. It's got kind of that angular kind of perspective, kind of scrolling down from a distance. And I always think it's interesting. Why is it scrolling down from the distance? I don't know. It's coming from away and it's coming towards us, right? So this is a story that is coming to us from a galaxy far, far away. And that's why it's coming from far away, and then it's coming towards us. And so it gets bigger, to show that, what is that, the perspective or whatever it's called? I can't remember what that's called. Parallel? No. Yeah, in art, whatever that's called. I can't remember, but yeah. So but something is coming towards us, right? Which is the story, right? So you see the letters scrolling towards us. It's coming towards us. It's Star Wars, and it's coming to our galaxy. And then I'm trying to see what else. I mean, it's interesting. They have the robes flowing. I mean, this really is talking about, again, Princess Leia's pose, right? It doesn't look quite like a diplomat, right? It looks like a hero, but really, again, it's the best version of a hero, right? It is the best, an idealization of what Princess Leia is. And in many ways, I do like that it captures, it makes you feel like this is something that is prepared. I like, for example, when someone is posing like this, it is something that is done on purpose, right? So there is when somebody poses, or when somebody makes the effort to move their body, and it is a conscious effort, and I think that is something that you can learn. And so that I do like that, that is something that is being rendered here by this artist, that even though in a physical way, even though we don't see it in a film, and perhaps this might be an idealization of what Princess Leia is, still this represents someone who is thoughtful and thinks about what they do, right? When you meet someone who is, right, like, when you go to a restaurant or something, and you see kind of a server, and you see how different people react and different people practice, and when somebody practices something, you can tell that they put some effort into it beforehand, right? It's not just random. Sometimes we want to prepare beforehand and create an impression based on how you are posed, how you are walking, how you talk, how you move, how you the angle that you approach. And so in this case, we're seeing Princess Leia again be that thoughtfulness that this artist decided to give her. So she's being thoughtful. She is. You can see that she is portraying power. She is at ease. Why is she at ease, right? She looks at ease. Why? Because she's confident. Because she knows she's going to win. And when you know you're going to win, you don't have to kind of grandstand, right? I mean, in a way, this is kind of a grandstand, but notice how it's a relaxed stance. When you're confident, there is a relaxation that comes within you, that envelops you, and there is something that essentially you're not as afraid. And so this is someone who, even if they are afraid, they're still choosing to approach. And so even if Princess Leia, in this case, she is ready to go, right? And she is calm because she is prepared and she is confident, and that's where that comes from. But even if she's not confident, they're still, because really in the movie they're both, of course they're scared. They're both, well, I don't know if scared is the right word, but they're certainly, they care about taking care of themselves, and you can tell this because in the film they are obviously not completely they're not reckless. They're careful about their lives. They're thoughtful. They want to win. They want a better life for themselves, because as you will see in the film, Darth Vader is sort of this kind of evil, this empire that is trying to take over, and so these characters, they don't want to live under the empire, right? So under the empire of Darth Vader. And so this is why Darth Vader is approaching them, right, as a cloudy sort of phantom in the back, right? A phantom menace. But this, of course, we're talking about Star Wars, not episode 1. We're talking about what we now know as episode 4. But yeah, so really, but he does look like a phantom menace, does he not? He is a phantom. He is a kind of a ghostly figure behind them. And he is a menace, because here we have the menace, the phantom menace, and look at the heroes. Look at how the heroes are, there's golden, or, they are in gold, and they are in the forefront, and they want in the foreground and in the forefront, I guess, facing towards their destiny. But behind them is sort of this phantom that is overlooking them. And so really it's scary, because we're seeing our heroes, both of them are heroes. Well, they're all heroes, I guess, if you want to count 3PO and R2. So really, C-3PO and R2-D2, really these are the, they are going on this adventures, and they are going to fulfill a great, and they're going to do the right thing, right? And I appreciate that George Lucas attempted to, or created a story where he really wanted to glorify, the kind of that, that good feeling, that the thing that we're so afraid of. Like, are we not afraid of that? Right? I mean, look at this. We have an entire army of people ready to fight, ready to, conquer and take control. And we have these few heroes who they're not bucking. They're not bending the knee. They're not, they believe in something greater and something different. They don't want to just follow kind of the empire. And that, to me, it shows George Lucas really wanted to not just idealize the characters from a physical standpoint, right? From the way they act and their mannerisms and even their actions, but really the broader theme of sort of good versus bad, right? The theme of doing the right thing, and how, in this case, it's noble, but, they're also going to face that sort of, it's not going to be an easy thing, because most people, most people perhaps don't want to really go on an adventure like that. I mean, as much as, right, like how often do you meet people, right? The average person, do you really think the average human being wants to be in a nonstop adventure? Most people just kind of want to have a normal life. But we're seeing the story of people who not only want to fight for good, but they want to be in an adventure. They want to be a hero. So a hero is not just everybody. Maybe I'm wrong. I said everyone's a hero in their life, and in a way that's kind of true. But I think there's another sense of hero, of being a hero, that is different, that is perhaps a little more literal. And in this case, the idea of the hero being someone who chooses to be a leader, and do what most people do not want to do, and for a good cause, for the cause of good, and that's really, so perhaps, there is a difference between Luke Skywalker and, say, C-3PO, because C-3PO, he's not going on an adventure. He's not putting himself out there in the same way that Luke Skywalker is, and neither is, and Princess Leia, not in the same way, at least. And Princess Leia is also a hero. So really, they are both choosing to put themselves on the line, and not just that, not in a reckless way, but really choosing to be sort of a hero, to lead. Because in order to lead, it means you have to start taking actions that have an effect on this world. And it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't have to be an aggressive thing. It doesn't have to be, like with lightsabers or, with weapons. It doesn't have to be like that. It can just be your actions, right? These can all represent, you can be a leader. I think what matters more is being a leader and being able to influence others through your actions. And that's kind of another way of being a leader, because most people perhaps don't want to be an example like that. They don't want to, they may not have the same values, or they may not want, they may not be as thoughtful to, but, and as you'll see in the movie, if you want to see the movie, they both do that, right? They both become the hero and the heroes. And so they both take on this role, and so I'm glad to see this film, and again, the theme of doing the right thing, and that's, a lot of people believe that it's noble, but it's hard, and a lot of people, they might not like that, or they might not, it takes effort, right? It's easier to just kind of not do anything, just be lazy. I don't necessarily think people sort of, I don't know. I mean, everyone is different, I guess, but it also shows, I'm so glad to see that, that George wanted to portray them in this way, and that it's not just some action film, but really it's about broader themes that encompass, say, the good versus bad, and kind of a sense of morality, and a sense of, the Force kind of representing this idea that that life is not just some that there's something special about life, and that we should treasure it, and that and that you feel, right? Notice how this emanating light, right? And kind of this halo behind them, and notice how they feel, right? Do you notice how Luke Skywalker, when you look at him like this, he's feeling, right? It looks like you can feel that he's feeling something, and maybe that makes us feel something. But even if we don't feel it, we can see him, right? That's like he's feeling it. He's feeling it. And in the case of Princess Leia, right, Princess Leia kind of already has it. Kind of already, she doesn't seem, but like I said, with Luke Skywalker being the younger one, he really has a lot to grow. And when we have a lot to learn and we, there are strong emotions that come with that. Because when you're learning it, you have to push through this phase of difficulty. And it feels uncomfortable, actually. And so that's really what Luke Skywalker is going to go through. But here, I feel like Princess Leia is a little different because she already has the power. And again, like I said, she has the maturity. And so Princess Leia kind of plays the role, kind of a different role in that sense. So anyway, what do you all think about this? I like these stars. Look at there's some really shiny stars right there. It is, and then of course the Star Wars. Now, what I think is interesting, another thing I just thought of is that looks like a star, doesn't it? So it's a lightsaber, and it's called Star Wars. If you didn't know any better, you might think that he's holding a star or something. Like, I don't know, like maybe there's a star coming out of his. It's hard to even tell what it is. It's like a baton. You can't even tell that it's a sword, although it looks like a sword, but it could be like just a handle. And then there's a star, this special star. It's kind of confusing, but I love how it looks. It's a star. So it's not actually a lightsaber, it's a star. And maybe that's why the artist kind of chose to interpret it, to make it look this way. It looks like a big star coming from him. And what I think is interesting is, why is it called Star Wars, right? Is there a reason, in the universe, why it would be called Star Wars? Why is the star significant? I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. But obviously it's a catchy name. It's a great name that George Lucas, I'm assuming George Lucas came up with it, like Star Wars. So yeah, but I think it's interesting that it looks like a big star. So if you were looking at this for the first time, even though that's not in a movie, there's nothing like this in a movie, I'm pretty sure. But if you're watching this, if you're looking at this Star Wars, you wouldn't know what to think, but you look at this big star coming out of there, it's kind of well, that might have something to do with it. Maybe they're following a star. Maybe a star is guiding them. Maybe, a star is coming out of, the hilt of a sword, or a star. You don't know what to think. So I think in this case, the artist kind of perhaps just wanted to play with the word star. So anyway, so a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So anyway, I appreciate you joining me. And what do you think? What do you think about this poster, this Star Wars poster? I would be curious to see what ideas you have. You all are great. And I hope you all are inspired, and hope you are able to find new inspirations when you watch the Star Wars movies yourself. Thank you, and subscribe for more content.